There's a lot of reported frustration going on within WWE's women's division, so we'll see what the latest is there. We'll also check out what's going on with the Bellas, Bayley, and more. Let's start things off with the reports on the women's division. We previously talked about how talent was allegedly upset with Vince McMahon for squeezing himself onto television over the last few weeks, when that time could have been going to other talent. Well, now, reports are claiming that there's a much bigger level of frustration going on mostly in the women's division. There was a report about Natalya being frustrated with how she's presented, but Natalya and TJ Wilson both made fun of that report in several tweets, talking about how Natalya has nothing to be frustrated about with recent title matches, TV time, and active storylines. But according to reports, a majority of the women's division is a bit lost right now. A possible reason for that frustration could most likely be the recent dismissal of the tag team titles and women's tag team division. Sure, the women's tag team titles have never been treated with proper care and attention, but it definitely did still open up a path of opportunities for the lower card talent on the women's roster that wasn't near the world title scene. The women's tag team titles allowed WWE to pair superstars up and give them an opportunity to get on TV and possibly even win the tag team titles. So despite the many flaws of the women's tag team division, it did give the women's division a platform and opportunity. Like in WrestleMania 37 and 38, those WrestleMania matches for the women's tag team titles consisted of several tag teams all in one match. And that was great because it gave several women an opportunity to walk down the ramp and compete in a WrestleMania match. So that has been one of the biggest benefits of the women's tag team titles over the last few years. But since Sasha and Naomi left, WWE has quietly thrown the women's tag team titles to the side of the road and kept driving. Which only proves Sasha and Naomi's stance that the titles meant nothing and nobody, especially the company, cared about the titles. What Sasha and Naomi said was true, because if the women's tag team titles were so essential to the WWE product, how come it's been over 60 days without new champions and rumors of the division being over? So that rumor alone is probably what's fueling a lot of this alleged frustration for the women's roster. If you're not in the Raw or SmackDown women's title picture, what do you really have going on for you on WWE television right now? Chances are it's most likely nothing, and you're just competing in endless exhibition matches. That's been the criticism of the women's division in recent years. Sure, the world title scene is always great, but there's almost little to no non-title storylines happening in the women's division. The best one we've seen in recent memory was Sonya Deville versus Naomi. That was a highly featured storyline in the women's division that didn't include any world title. Of course, the ending to that Naomi and Sonya storyline was very anticlimactic and had zero payoff, but when we were at the start and the middle of that feud, it was very entertaining to watch. So when you hear about these reports about frustration in the women's locker room, you could basically look around and put the pieces of the puzzle together yourself. The women's tag team titles have gone missing, and there's no non-title feuds in the entire women's division. So if you're not in one of those two women world's title matches, you're probably really frustrated just waiting for an opportunity to showcase what you can do. But that's the latest with the women's division right now. If WWE can bring back those women's tag team titles and surround it with a nice division with depth, that will probably lighten the mood and open up some more doors for the women's division. But we'll have to see how that plays out there. WWE Hall of Fame members, the Bella Twins, made their shocking return to WWE in ring action earlier this year at the Royal Rumble. It was a shocking situation because there was genuine belief that they'll never step foot in the ring again. Brie Bella said that she was retired and focusing on her family, while Nikki Bella couldn't get cleared from a career-ending neck injury. But for Royal Rumble 2022, Brie decided to come back, and Nikki was cleared, so they both stepped foot in the ring in early 2022 for the first time in years. Their Royal Rumble appearance ended with Brie eliminating Nikki, and they haven't appeared on TV since. Nikki Bella had this to say when speaking to Extra about another potential WWE return for the Bellas. Quote, "We're more on the retired side, but we still live it. We'll still watch Monday Night Raw and I'll be like, okay, so like Becky Lynch did this, Brie, and I think we should go back and do this at WrestleMania. I do this all the time. It never ends. Like, when you're in, you're in. You never leave." End quote. So telling by what they were saying, it sounds like if we're ever going to see the Bellas do anything in the ring again, it'll be around WrestleMania seasons. What is there left for the Bellas to do? Well, if the women's tag team titles ever return, that's something that's been on the top of Nikki and Brie's list for years. They've talked about how they've always wanted a crack at the women's tag team titles, and with the both of them now being cleared to compete, maybe this will be a nice WrestleMania story for them in the next few years. There's been a couple of small notes and updates regarding Bayley. Bayley was recently spotted with Sasha Banks at a concert in Orlando. They posted pictures with the band State Champs and were spotted by other fans at the event. For when it comes to the latest update regarding Bayley's return itself, PW Insider reports that Bayley will be in town for SummerSlam weekend. They claimed she will be in Nashville, Tennessee, the host city of SummerSlam, during the weekend of the event. Does that mean she's definitely appearing on the show? No, not at all. But at least it keeps everyone on the edge of their seats, knowing that Bayley's in town. Everyone witnessed what happened at last year's event. We saw two huge blockbuster returns of Brock Lesnar and Becky Lynch. Nobody saw those two returns coming. Then, in SummerSlam 2019, we saw the returns of Edge and Trish Stratus. So WWE has been quietly creating this tradition over the last few years of huge returns taking place at SummerSlam. And it'll be a much bigger venue than the ordinary WWE events. So what better place to bring back a huge star than at this huge venue with more fans than you usually have? There's not that many women's matches planned at SummerSlam. So if Bayley's gonna do some sort of run-in or interference of any kind, it'll have to be either the Raw Women's title match or the SmackDown Women's title match. And add to the fact that Bayley is a WWE free agent, so she can basically appear in any of those two matches and join whatever brand. She had a lot of history and unfinished business with Bianca Belair, so a Raw return makes a lot of sense. She has the history with Ronda Rousey and Liv Morgan, so a return there would be great as well. The options are really endless for Bayley. So many possible routes to take her in. So we'll have to see what they decide to do with her and if it'll take place at SummerSlam. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.